Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another glorious day. Today, we're going to be looking at the phases of the moon, and this is one of my favorite parts of studying celestial bodies. There are going to be a couple of different graphs and charts that we're going to be looking at, but the first one that we need to understand is how the sun's light affects the moon as the moon orbits the earth. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing a little model. So we're going to have our sun, we're going to have our earth, and our moons. Now we're going to be talking about technically 8 different phases of the moon, but for this demonstration, we're going to be talking about 4 positions. Okay. Now, I'm cutting each of these moons into halves because the sun's light energy is constantly flowing out. Okay. And that means that at all times there's going to be half of the moon that is exposed to the sun's light and half of the moon that is not exposed to the sun's light. So in this case, the back half of all of these moons are going to be dark. And as the moon rotates, or not rotates, orbits around the earth, what we see is going to be different based on the moon's position because of where the sunlight is hitting the earth. Okay, so that's kind of part 1 of this. So we're going to kind of put this in a thought bubble. Okay. And now we're going to move on to some specifics. Now, the moon orbits the earth, so it completes one orbit. Of the earth. Roughly, so this is not a specific because technically it's like a decimal, so we just kind of do roughly every 27 days. Okay. So for the sun to start in its beginning position and orbit all the way around the earth, it takes about 27 days. Also, the moon is always spinning on its axis. Or rotating on its axis. Okay. So that's 2 kind of bits of information that you need to keep in mind. Now, we are going to take a look at a diagram that is going to explain the different phases of the moon as far as what we see And then we're going to create another model kind of like this that's going to put those phases of the moon into order as far as what we see. So this is what is happening when the sun's rays are hitting the moon. There are technically 8 phases of the moon. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to number these from right to left.
I need the following teachers for absence reports. Miss Amin, Miss Austin,
I apologize for the interruption, ladies and gentlemen.
Miss Glabog, Miss Gonzalez, 4th grade, Miss Hobbs, Miss Epstein, Miss Pena, Miss Rodriguez, Miss Sanchez, and Miss Thompson, 1st grade. Come to the office this morning, please, and sign your absence report. Also, just FYI, I am doing a drawing for 4 wreaths, and they're in my office, and there is paper and containers for you to put your names in, the ones that you want to have a chance to win. Thanks.
Sorry about the interruption, guys. Okay, so we're going to label these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from the right to the left, and there's a reason for that. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So we are going to start by looking at the very first step in the phases of the moon, which is called the waxing crescent. Now with the waxing crescent, if you think about it like a car, when you wax a car, you have to put wax on the car and rub it in, right? So when it's waxing, light is being put onto the moon. So in this case, there's going to be a tiny sliver of light that we see. So we start with just this tiny little sliver. And then throughout a few days, the light continues to expand. It waxes on more and more until we get to our first quarter. Light continues to wax onto the moon until we end up with a moon that's almost completely full. And this is called a waxing gibbous. It's a funny, interesting word, isn't it? Gibbous. And then our fourth step, we finally have a full moon, which means that the entire moon is lit. There is no shadow on it. So that light started on the right, kind of appearing, and then more light appeared from right to left, and more light appeared from right to left. And I'm actually going to give you a little more darkness there just to make it a little more clear. And then finally we get to the point where we see the whole moon. There's enough light shining on the moon that we see everything. And then we get to the waning portion. Waning, if you think about energy, when your energy is waning, you're losing energy. And in this case, a waning gibbous is because we are losing light energy. Now, waxing gibbous, the darkness was on the left, but in the waning gibbous, the darkness is on the right. So light started appearing on the right until it filled it up, And now darkness is starting to appear on the right. And as you see, we'll continue to gain more darkness. And then the sixth step is going to be that last quarter. More darkness appears until we have the waning crescent. And then finally, our moon is completely in shadow. And it is called a new moon. Okay. So now let's take a look at what this means as far as what we see when we are looking at the moon in the night sky and where it correlates to where the moon is in relation to the sun. So I'm going to kind of slide this up here. So just like we did last time, we are going to have our sun. Again, sun is always sending out light energy. But this time, this model is going to be labeled what we see. Because before, we have the exact model of what the moon looks like in its different positions in correlation to where the sun's rays are hitting it. Now we're going to be making a model based on what we see when we are standing on Earth when the moon is in its different phases. So we're going to have our Earth. And again, we need all of our moons, but this time we're going to draw all 8. So I'm just going to kind of place my first 4 to make this easy, and then I'll put my 1s in the middle. And remember, this is always circling, orbiting the Earth in the exact same way. Okay. So when the moon is in this position, as we can see by our model up here, all of the light is hitting the back side of the moon, which means we aren't going to see anything. So this is why what we see is the new moon, when the moon is completely in shadow, is because of where the light is hitting the moon. I'm actually going to zoom this out so I can try and fit all of this in one screen. Now, as the moon moves position, we're going to start seeing a little bit of light. So this is position 8. Now we're going to move into position 1. And position 1 was that waxing crescent. So we start seeing a little bit of light on the moon, not a lot. And then by the time it moves into its second position, we're seeing this half. And if you think about it, if you're standing right here on the Earth and you're looking up at the moon, you're going to see half of it because light is only shining on half of the moon. So that's why we only see this first quarter. And then as the moon continues to orbit around the Earth, we're going to see more and more light, which means that now we're going to get to that step 3 of that waxing gibbous. More light is waxing onto the moon until we get to step 4, which is that full moon. And if you look at the diagram, based on where the sun's rays hit the moon, we're only going to see the lighted side of the moon. And then we go into position 5, which means we're going to start seeing that waning gibbous. We're going to start losing a little bit of what we see of the moon, simply because it's moving positions, and now we're seeing some of that shadow again until it gets into position 6, where now we are, oops, I started shading the wrong side. Now we are seeing that position 6, which is that last quarter. Goodness gracious, I think I messed something up here. Hold on. Everybody makes mistakes. It happens. Or no, I didn't. That's right. Yeah, I didn't. That's right. I just need to fix this little bit right there just so it looks a little more clear. All right. And remember, if you're standing here and you're facing the moon, the light is going to be on that left-hand side, which is why the last quarter is flipped. You have to imagine yourself standing on the earth facing that moon. And then finally, we get to step 7, which is that waning crescent, which more of that darkness has taken hold. That shadow on the moon has increased, and that's what we see. All right. So now I want to talk about what you can do over the next few weeks to kind of track what you see in the night sky. So if we're taking a look, we're just going to kind of create a bit of a December calendar here. So we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. December started on Sunday, so 1, 8, 15, 22, and 29. I'm going to have to kind of squeeze this in here. 2, 9, 16, 23, and 30, 3, 10, 17, 24, and 31, 4, 11, 18, 25, 5, 12, 19, 26. Scoop this over a bit. 6, 13, 20, and 27, and 7, 14, 21, and 28. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of these, but I challenge you to go through and take this science notebook home each night for the next month. Look up at the night sky when you have a clear night and record what you see. Now, the 1st of December, we should have seen a waxing crescent. So we would have seen just a little bit of that moon. And then by tomorrow, Wednesday the 4th, we should be seeing that first quarter.
Good morning. I still need the following teachers to come sign their absence report. Miss Amin, Miss Cruz, Miss Labog, Miss Gonzalez, 4th grade, Miss Hobbs, Miss Pena, Miss Rodriguez, and Miss Thompson, 1st grade. Could y'all please come this morning and sign your absence report? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll see that waxing crescent the first quarter. on this week. And then by the 12th, or whoops, I almost forgot, on the 8th, we'll see that waxing gibbous. Then on the 12th, we'll have our full moon. On the 16th, we'll have that waning gibbous. Then by the 19th, we will have our last quarter. By the 23rd, we will have our waning crescent. And then the 26th, the moon will be in complete shadow and we will have our new moon. So I challenge you to go through and complete this calendar over the next month to track what you see in the sky and see if what the projections for this month are correct or not. You can even Google phases of the moon for December 2019 and see the chart of what it's expected to look like. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.